Hello everybody, I'm Brian Freedman, wine specialist for winechateau.com, and today we're tasting a wine that even people who don't know wine, who've never had wine, or who frankly detest wine, are familiar with. We're talking about Chianti, of course, and Chianti is interesting because among consumers, it has sort of an occasionally confusing reputation. For some people, maybe who grew up in maybe the 60s or 70s, early 80s, Chianti was synonymous with those appropriately named bottles. The Italian word for those bottles was fiascos, and those were the sort of the wide-bottomed bottles with the straw on the outside, and then when you were done you could put a candle in there and it made a very nice college bedstand light or whatever it was. Chianti obviously has come a very, very long way since then. The question for most consumers is, what kind of Chianti are you getting? There's Chianti, Chianti Classico, Chianti Classico Reserva. Like so many Italian wines, there can be some confusion, but the truth is once you actually start to understand some very key words, some key phrases or things that you can see on the label, you really, the whole world of Italian wine opens up to you. Today's wine in particular is the Caposaldo Chianti 2009. Now, with this wine, we don't have the Classico designation, we don't have the Reserva designation, so I'm not necessarily expecting hugely complex things. What I'm hoping for is a wine that's drinkable, that's pleasant, and frankly, that's it. I mean, I'm not thinking my world is going to be rocked, but you don't always want your world rocked with wine, right? Sometimes you just want to gulp a bottle and get on with it. See how this one is showing. The color here is interesting. I know it's tough to pick up on camera. But there's certainly a transparency to this. It doesn't look like there's huge concentration in terms of its appearance. On the nose, pretty straightforward. I mean, we're talking about red cherries here, maybe a little bit of tart raspberry, maybe a touch of wood, but not too much. The Sangiovese for this wine was partially aged in wood for 8 months, so we're not expecting that big vanilla spice, that kind of thing. See how it's showing on the palate. It's what I expected at the price. It's what I expected at, based on the information the label is giving me. We're talking about almost exactly what we smelled on the nose. Cherries, touch of tart raspberries, maybe a little hint of wood, but not too much. It's very drinkable. It's pleasant. It is not rocking your world. It's not rocking my world, but it's a nice Tuesday night wine, right? Turn on the TV, have some pasta and gravy. That's what we call it in Philadelphia, where I'm from. You probably know it as pasta and sauce. Much more appropriate that way. Frankly, you could have this with lunch and it would be perfectly fine. Nice wine. Very simple, very straightforward, and pleasant. That's about it. So, it's on sale right now. Make sure you do try this, though. I think a lot of times people tend to get a little bit bogged down in super prestigious wines, and sometimes you just want to drink a couple glasses of wine, and that's perfectly acceptable. Enjoy this one if you do decide to check it out. And until next time, thanks for joining us. I'm Brian Freedman. Cheers. I'm expecting to be an interesting Chianti. I don't know why I would expect this to be an interesting Chianti. Oftentimes allow a little bit of wiggle room. 85% of this wine comes from